In this latest version of Firebase 9 tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how to make CRUD, create, read, update and delete queries in the Firestore database. The first step is to install the Node and npm package manager to my computer. Go to the browser and type node.js.dev and you can see the Node LTS button in the middle of the page. The current version is version 18.14.2. You may see a later version depending on when you are watching this lecture. Click to download and you can see I have the .pkg file downloaded in my downloads folder. Double click it to install, which will open up the Node.js installer. Click continue and agree, then click install. It may ask you for the admin password. Once I entered the password, it started the installation process. Once it's done, it shows the installation was completed successfully message, then hit close. Then it asks me what to do with the installer. Because I have already installed Node.js, so I no longer need the installer. So I'm going to move it to the trash folder. The good news is that when you install Node.js, the npm node package manager is also installed along with it. Now I'm going to quickly test to make sure both Node and npm have been installed properly. To check that, go to Finder in my Mac, Applications, Utilities, Terminal. Double click to open it, then type node -v, which gives the currently installed version of Node.js, which is exactly what I saw in the Node.js website, in this case version 18.14.2. Let's check which version of npm has been installed in my computer. So type npm -v and the npm version I have is 9.5.0 in my computer. Again, you may see the higher version if you watch this lecture in the future. At this stage, I have successfully installed Node and npm in my computer. The second step is to create a project folder in my desktop. So I'm going to call it Firebase-npm-JavaScript, like so. Then go to Visual Studio Code Editor and choose File, Open Folder, and select the folder that I have just created. The third step is to install the Firebase npm package to the project. To install it, I will have to use a terminal or command prompt application. Luckily, Visual Studio Code has an inbuilt terminal/command prompt. To open up the terminal window inside Visual Studio Code, go to the menu bar at the top and choose Terminal, which will open up the terminal window at the bottom. It also takes me straight to the project folder, as you can see here. Now, all I have to do is type npm -i, or I could use install Firebase and hit enter, which will start installing Firebase to the project. Once it's done, you can see two files created called package.json and package-lock.json, as well as a folder called node modules. You most likely will not be touching anything inside the node and modules folder or the package-lock.json file. But one thing worth pointing out here is that I can check the version of Firebase that I have just installed inside package.json. The fourth step is to connect my Firebase project from the Firebase dashboard to this Node project. To do that, I will need to get a Firebase SDK code snippet from the Firebase dashboard that I want to connect to. So go to the Firebase dashboard and project overview, then project settings, and scroll down. Under the SDK setup and configuration title, make sure npm is selected. I can see two separate code here. As you know, I have already installed Firebase using this command, so I can simply ignore that. Now all I have to do is to just copy this code snippet and come back to my project, Now I need to paste it somewhere else, right? So I'm going to create a file called index.js inside my project. So right click inside Project Navigator in my Visual Studio Code editor, choose new file, or I can simply click the new file button and type index.js and hit enter. Then I'm going to paste the Firebase SDK code inside the index.js file. The fifth step is to run the app from the terminal window. In order to see an output, I'm going to console log the app object inside the index.js file at the bottom and save it. Then inside the terminal, type node space index.js command to run the app. As you can see, when I did that, I have gotten error which says warning, to load an ES module, set type module in the package.json. What that means is, in order to use the import statement inside the index.js file, like this one, I need to add a property called type with the value module inside the package.json file. So go to the package.json file, right inside the first curly braces, add type in quotes, colon, module in quotes, comma. Save the file and run the index.js file inside the terminal window by using node space index.js command. You can see the Firebase app object console logged in the terminal window. Nice. Firebase 9 is a modular based approach unlike its previous version, so you only import or include the Firebase products that you intend to use, which makes the app not only lighter but also faster. Let's say I want to connect Firebase Cloud Firestore database to my project. The first step is to import Cloud Firestore inside my project in order to use it. To do that, head over to the browser and go to the Firebase libraries page. In there, you can see all the Firebase services available for web. The one I'm interested in is Cloud Firestore for web. Go to the Initialize Cloud Firestore section and make sure you are inside the Firebase version 9 tab. Then copy the import statement for Firestore like so. Come back to the index.js file and paste it right below the Initialize app import statement like so. The second line of code I need is the Cloud Firestore database reference. So copy the last line from the Firebase website, paste it inside the index.js file right below the app object at the bottom. Then change app to DB inside the console log. Let's run the app one more time inside the terminal, node space index.js. And you can see the Firebase Cloud Firestore database object console logged. Now we can easily create queries on. That's awesome. There are two methods that we can use to add data to the Cloud Firestore. One is the add doc method, set doc method. Let's learn how to use the add doc method to add data to the Cloud Firestore in this lecture. In order to use the add doc method in Firebase 9, we need three things: database that we want to add our data to, the collection method where we want to add our data to inside our database. Finally, the add doc method, which is where we actually pass our data along with collection and database references. Let's destructure get Firestore, collection, and add doc that we need from the Firestore import statement. So at the top, import opening closing curly braces from Firebase /Firestore in quotes. Inside the curly braces, type get Firestore, comma collection, comma add doc, like so. Once we have the import statement, the second step is to initialize Firestore database. So constant space db equals get Firestore, opening closing parenthesis and semicolon, and pass the app that I have access at the top. As you know, this line of code is a part of Firebase SDK, which we can get from the Firebase project dashboard. The third step is to actually make a query using the add_doc method. This add_doc method will take two arguments. The first one is the collection method as an argument, and the second argument is the actual data. Add_doc method. Let's add the first argument. So collection, opening closing parenthesis. This collection method also takes two arguments. The first argument of the collection method is the database we want to add the data to, which is DB in this case, comma, the second argument is the collection name, which will be users in quotes, like so. At this stage, you may wonder, if you look at the Firebase database page, there is no collection called users. So how can we add data to the collection that doesn't exist? Well, when you try to add data to the Firestore database with the collection name specified in the query, Firebase will try to find that specific collection inside the database so that it can add data to it. On the other hand, if Firebase cannot find the collection name, it will create a new collection with that name and add the data inside it. That's the reason you don't normally add just a collection. Instead, when you add data with a collection name, Firebase automatically takes care of it. Moving on, the second argument of the add_doc method is the actual data that we want to store as a document inside the users collection. The good news is that we can simply store a JavaScript object as a document inside the Firestore database. So let's create a JavaScript object with some key value pairs. So opening and closing curly braces, name colon Raja Tamil inside quotes, comma, country colon Canada inside the quotes. And you can add more data here, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to stick with these two properties. Now let's run the code to see what happens. To run the add_doc method, we need to run the index.js file. So open up the terminal window by choosing terminal from the Visual Studio Code menu bar and new terminal. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm inside the right project. Then I'm going to run the command node space index.js and hit enter. Switch back to the Cloud Firestore page, refresh it, and you can see that we have successfully added data to the Firestore database. Nice. As you can see from the first column, there is a user collection. In the second column, you can see Firebase automatically created a unique ID, which is normally an alphanumeric value, like this one. This is super useful because we can identify any document in the users collection using this ID. And you can see the actual data stored in the third column. Pretty straightforward. Sometimes you may want to get the auto-generated ID as soon as we have successfully added data to the Cloud Firestore database. Let's see how to do that. The add_doc method will return a promise, and we can run then function on it to capture any data that will be returned to us from Firebase. So .then opening and closing parenthesis, and this will take a function as an argument. I'm going to use an arrow function with the parameter called docref, which will have returned response data. So docref equals angle bracket opening and closing curly braces. Inside that, I'm going to console log the docref. In order to get the auto-generated ID from the response, all we have to do is to access the ID property on the docref object .id. That's pretty much it. Let's also add the catch function similar to the then function in case if you get any error. After the then function .catch opening and closing parenthesis, then pass the arrow function with the parameter error. So error equals angle bracket opening and closing curly braces, then console log error. Like so. Let's run the code again. Node.js space index.js, and you can see the auto-generated ID that comes directly from Firebase. Nice. This also assures us that we have successfully added data to the database. Let's make sure that the ID in here matches the one inside the Firestore database. Yes, they are perfectly matched. Nice. There are some times where you want to create your own custom document ID instead of using the auto-generated ID. Luckily, we can do that using the other method called setDoc, which is what I'll be covering in the next lecture. I'll see you there. There are two ways we can update an existing document in Cloud Firestore. One is using the setDoc method. The other one is the updateDoc method. In this lecture, I will be showing you how to update an existing document in the Cloud Firestore using the setDoc method. Let's take a look at the data that has already been added inside the Cloud Firestore database. As you can see, I have a collection called cities, and it has only one document with the auto-generated ID. And the document has three fields: country, name, and province. Pretty straightforward. With the setDoc method, we can either update this document completely, which pretty much replaces the entire document with new data, or we can update partially, meaning we will update one or more fields in the document. Let's see how to update a document entirely with the new data using the setDoc method first. In order to update the data entirely using the setDoc method, we need three things: database, where we want to update data to; the doc method, which is where we will be passing the existing collection name that we want to update one of its documents; and the existing document ID that we want to update the fields into. Finally, the setDoc method, which is where we actually pass our data along with the doc method. In order to access these, first import Firestore and destructure get Firestore doc and setDoc from the Firestore import statement. So at the top, import opening and closing curly braces from Firebase/Firestore inside quotes and semicolon. Inside the curly braces, type get Firestore, doc, setDoc, like so. Now that we have access to the database and the methods we need, the next step is to initialize the Firestore database. So const space db get Firestore, opening and closing parentheses and semicolon. I'm going to pass the app object here. Once we have initialized the Firestore, the third step is to actually make a query. Hey, I just want to remind you to download the free PDF of essential Firestore CRUD queries that shows all the source code with a detailed explanation covered in this tutorial and beyond. Grab your copy now, and the link is in the description below. To the Cloud Firestore using the setDoc method. Let's declare it setDoc, opening and closing parentheses. This setDoc method will take two arguments. The first one is the doc method as an argument, and the second argument is actual data. Let's take a look at the first argument, doc method. This doc method takes three arguments, which are pretty straightforward. The first one will be the database, the second argument will be the collection name, and the third argument will be the existing document ID that we want to update data to. Let's see that in action. Inside the setDoc parentheses, type doc, opening and closing parentheses. So the first argument will be the database, so db, the second argument will be a collection name, in this case cities. The third argument of the doc method is the document ID that we want to update data to. To find the document ID, go to the Firebase Firestore database and copy the document ID from the second column, come back to the code and paste it in quotes like this. The second argument of the setDoc method is the actual data that we want to update entirely. So opening and closing curly braces, title, Vancouver, in quotes, comma, province name, British Columbia, in quotes, comma, country code, GA, in quotes. The setDoc method will return a promise, so let's chain the then and catch functions to it. After the parenthesis, dot then, opening and closing parenthesis, and pass arrow function as an argument. So opening and closing parenthesis equals angle bracket, opening and closing curly braces, and I'm going to console log entire data has been updated successfully, in quotes, and semicolon. Then catch method. After the then function, type dot catch, opening and closing parenthesis. This also takes an arrow function, so error equals angle bracket, opening and closing curly braces. Then I'm going to console log the error and semicolon. As you can see, the data we want to add has new keys as well as values completely different than the existing document fields. When we run this query, what will happen is the setDoc method will try to find the document ID that I have specified as a third argument in the doc method here. If it finds it, it will just replace the entire document with the new data that we passed in here, including the field name and field value. If it cannot find the document ID, it will just create a new document inside the cities collection. Okay, let's run the code. So open up the terminal window and run node space index.js. Come back to the Firestore database and you can see the entire data has been changed. Nice. Next, let's see how to update just one or more fields using the setDoc method instead of replacing the entire document. To do that, all we have to do is to add a third argument to the setDoc method with the property called merge::true. So after the second argument of the doc method, which is data, then comma, opening closing curly braces, then merge::true. So what will happen when using merge::true? It allows changing the updating behavior of the query with 4 different behaviors. Let's take a look at it one by one. Before going into those 4 behaviors, let's just quickly take a look at the Cloud Firestore database to see what we are going to update to. The collection cities has one document with 3 fields: name, province, country. Okay, let's see the first scenario when we have merge::true in the setDoc method. So when we do not specify a field name in the data, the query will ignore that and either it does not delete or add anything. Let's see that in action. So I'm going to empty the data with just opening and closing curly braces and run the code. You can see that nothing happens in the database. If you do not have the merge::true, it will just replace everything to an empty object. Let's take a look at the second scenario. So when we try to update the same key value pair that was already in the database, it also does nothing. I'm going to use the same field name and Ottawa. So in the code inside the empty JavaScript, type name, Ottawa, and run the code. As you can see, nothing changed. The third scenario, when we use merge, is that if you want to update a value of any existing field, in this case province, say I want to change the value from ON to Ontario, all I have to just pass just that key with the new value. So get rid of the name property and add the key that we want to update to, which is province: Ontario, in quotes. Let's run the code and you can see the new value has been added with the existing field. The fourth scenario, what if we want to add a new field? In that case, all you have to do is to just simply add key value pair inside the JavaScript object. So when the query runs, it tries to find a field name inside the document. If it cannot find one, it will just create new field. Just get rid of the province. Let's add code colon 613 in quotes. Run the query. You can see the new field called code has been added to the document. Nice. One more thing worth pointing out here is that using the setDoc method with the merge property, we won't be able to change the field name after creating it, but only we can change the value of them. setDoc is not the only option to update an existing document in Cloud Firestore. There is a other method called updateDoc, which is what I will be covering in the next video. By the end of this lecture, you are going to learn how to delete an entire document from a collection in Cloud Firestore using the deleteDoc method. Let's get started. The first step is to import Firestore database and destructure the three methods that we need to perform the delete operation, which are the getFirestore method, which is the Firestore database, the doc method, which is where we are going to pass references of database, collection name, and the ID of a document that we want to delete. The third method is deleteDoc, which is where we are going to pass the doc method to perform the delete operation of a document. Let's take a look at our Firestore database dashboard. At this stage, I have a collection called cities, and it has only one document, which is what I want to delete. The first step is to initialize the Firestore database. So const space db equals getFirestore, opening and closing parenthesis, and semicolon. Then the doc method. Let's call it doc, opening and closing parenthesis, which takes three arguments. The first argument is database reference, in this case db, comma. The second argument is the collection name, in this case cities, in quotes, comma. The third argument is the ID of a document that we want to delete. I can get that document ID from the second column in the Firestore database dashboard, copy that, and paste it in here with quotes. Now that we have added all the arguments that we need inside the doc method, let's assign the doc method to a constant called docref, like so. Now I have the doc method available and ready to use, which is the only one argument I need in order to make deleteDoc query. So deleteDoc, opening and closing parenthesis. Then I'm going to pass the doc method as an argument, so docref. The deleteDoc method also returns a promise. So let's chain the then and catch methods. Dot, then, opening and closing parenthesis, which takes a function as an argument. So opening and closing parenthesis equals angle bracket, opening and closing curly braces. In there, I'm going to console log entire document has been deleted successfully. Then the catch method. So dot catch, opening and closing parenthesis, which also takes a function as an argument. Opening and closing parenthesis, I'm going to pass error as an argument to this inner function, equals angle bracket, opening and closing curly braces. Then I'm going to console log error in there. Okay, let's run the code by opening up the terminal window and type node space index.js. And you can see the message saying entire document has been deleted successfully. Switch back to the Firestore database and you can see no document is available inside the cities collection. Nice. When you refresh the page, you can also see the cities collection is gone. This is because you can add or remove a collection as long as it has at least one document in it. By the end of This lecture, I'll be teaching you on how to get a specific document data from a collection using the document ID in CRUD Firestore database Firebase version 9. Here is the CRUD Firestore database with some sample data that I have added earlier. As you can see, it has two collections called cities and contacts, and each collection has a few documents in it. Let's say I want to get a specific document from the cities collection. For example, when I select the cities collection, the middle column appears with some alphanumeric values, which are document IDs, representing documents which are in the third column. When I choose one of the document IDs, I can see the actual document in the third column, which is actual data stored in the key value JSON type format. Let's say I want to get the city of Ottawa document, for example. When I say document, I'm referring to all of the key value pairs in the third column. In order to get the city of Ottawa document, I will have to use its document ID, which is this in the second column. The document ID is an alphanumeric value which will be unique to each document, and this document ID will be automatically generated by Firebase. Okay, to get a specific document from a collection in Firebase 9, I will need three methods, which are the getFirestore method, which will return a CRUD Firestore database reference object. The second one is the doc method. This method will take three arguments. The first one is a CRUD Firestore database reference object. The second one is the collection name that we want to get one of its documents from. The third argument will be a document ID that I want to get the data of. The doc method also will return a document reference object. Finally, the third method is going to be getDoc. This method will take a single argument, which is a document reference object, and it will return a snapshot object that will have the actual data that I'm looking for. Okay, let's see that in action. First, import the three methods at the top of the index.js file. So import opening closing curly braces from Firebase/Firestore in quotes and semicolon. Inside the curly braces, I'm going to destructure the three methods that I need. Number one is getFirestore, F uppercase, comma, doc method, comma, getDoc, D uppercase. So the first step is to get the CRUD Firestore database reference object using the getFirestore method. So call getFirestore method, getFirestore opening closing parenthesis, semicolon. This will return the database reference object. So I'm going to assign it to the constant called db, like so. Next, get the document reference object using the doc method. So doc opening closing parenthesis and semicolon. This method takes three arguments, as I mentioned before, and returns the document reference object. So the first argument is going to be the database reference. I have already declared in here, so pass db inside the parenthesis, like so, comma. The second argument is the collection name. I'm going to switch to Firebase dashboard and copy the collection name, in my case cities, and come back to the index.js file. Inside the doc method, paste it with the quotes, like so, which will be a second argument, comma. Third argument is the actual document ID. Again, go to the CRUD Firestore database page, double click it and copy the document ID, come back to the index.js file and paste it inside the doc method as the third argument in quotes. Now that we have all the three arguments that doc method needs, this doc method will return a document reference object. So let's assign it to a constant called docref, like so. Finally, call the doc, which is the third method that we need. So get doc, D uppercase, opening, closing parenthesis and semicolon. This method takes one argument, which is the document reference object that I have declared here. So docref inside the parenthesis. This getDoc method is an asynchronous function, so I could use then catch blocks, but this time I'm going to use the await keyword in front of the getDoc method. So await. If everything goes well, the getDoc method will return the snapshot object, which will have the actual data of Ottawa along with other information. So define a constant called docSnap and assign it to the getDoc method, like so. If it is resolved and everything goes well, I'll be able to get the document that I'm interested in using the data method on the snapshot object. So docSnap.data, opening, closing parenthesis. In order to see that on the terminal, I'm going to console log this, like so. Now let's run the index.js file using the node space index.js command inside the terminal window. And you can see the document data for the city of Ottawa console logged in the terminal window, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Great. Hey, don't forget to download free PDF of essential Firestore CRUD queries. Link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you find this tutorial useful, please hit the like button. If you would like to see more tutorials like this, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.